What's up, everyone? Alex Rossman here, and welcome to Rossman Radio, the social first podcast where founders and industry leaders stop pretending everything's amazing and they tell the real stories, the wins, the failures, the why did I even start this moments, all of it. Most importantly, we break down the marketing strategies that are actually working for them today, not the ones some guru made up in a hotel conference room in 2016. So if you want real-world growth strategies told by the ones who have scaled multi-million-dollar brands, just listen.
All right. Well, thank you all for joining us again for another episode of Home Service Heavyweights. Today, I am joined with Chris from Bumblebee Cleaning Services. We're going to dive into some different industry topics and talk about how the industry is evolving and changing. So let's go ahead and kick it off over to Chris.
Hey, thanks for inviting me, Lauren. Really excited to be here.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'd love for you to just start with kind of giving a little bit of introduction about yourself before we dive into the conversation here. So go ahead and kick it off with a little intro.
All right. Sounds good. Yeah. So my name is Cristobal Mondragon. I'm the owner of Bumblebee Cleaning Services. We are a cleaning company located in Seattle, Washington, and now in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm originally from Mexico, but I moved to the States in 2004. So I've been living here ever since. And it's a business that we started about 11 years ago now. And now that's what we do full time.
Great. Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for that quick introduction. And you kind of touched right there on the first kind of question there of, you and your wife started Bumblebee Cleaning Services over 11 years ago. Looking back, what do you think were the key turning points that allowed the business to grow past those early stages into what it is now?
That's a fantastic question. And honestly, we were lucky to be, you can say, at the right time when technology was emerging for the home service industry.
Yeah.
Story short, right? When my wife told me to start the business, I was really not into it, especially because, cleaning doesn't seem glamorous. Sure. And I was like, I don't know, is there money really in that industry? But, I decided to help her with just the phone calls. I remember I said, hey, I'm going to keep my job, which was selling cars. And I said, hey, I'll answer the phone for you, and then you do the job. 3 months in, and this is just very informal business. I remember I only registered the LLC. We didn't even have insurance. But 3 months in, she's bringing more money than I'm making, and she's at home by 5. And I'm like, okay, there's money in this industry. So I already had a few years in the industry selling cars. I was kind of getting tired of it. So I figured, hey, maybe let's give this a shot. Literally all I did at the time, I knew I needed some type of calculator so I can come up with quotes on the fly. And funny enough, while doing some research, I found a software that is called Launch 27. That was the very first software we implemented. And this software literally made us do a leap from making, about 5K to 20K, like over a month. And what does this software do? It just offers online booking. At the time, this is 2014. I mean, no, unheard of having online booking. So a software where you can go and select a couple options, and then you get your price, and you can just book online. Yeah. So that software really was the difference between most cleaning business at the time that was still doing in-person estimates. We'll set up on a time so we can do an in-person estimate. It was a lot of back and forth. Here I come, hey, here's a booking form, select what you want, pay, you're done. So that's really, it was the adoption of technology at a very early stages that allowed us to grow faster than most other cleaning business.
And that's awesome. And obviously that's a key part here is making sure that we're adopting to the latest trends in the industry that help us streamline and make things efficient. I mean, I know you mentioned that initially you were a little bit skeptical about, getting into the cleaning industry, but you mentioned a little bit about how, one, the profits were obviously that's a big indicator as to what could change your perspective, but what else changed your perspective and gave you that confidence that you were making the right move into this industry?
The recurring revenue. That's when I'm like, wow, because it really snowballed. So we started in January, right? And then the first month, I mean, everything under the table, cash transactions, you name it. I'm like, you know what, let me start tracking this. Second month, I'm doing the spreadsheets on Excel and whatnot. But then I noticed something. Customers were sticking on the service. They were calling us to do one-time service. They liked the service. And then they were like, hey, can you come every 2 weeks, every month? And so one turned into two customers, into three customers. And that right there was the attractive part to me, because I was not paying to acquire that customer anymore.
Yeah.
And it's literally just filling up our calendar. So really that was what made me go full throttle.
Awesome. That's really great. And I love to hear that too. I do want to get into, I know that Bumblebee, as you mentioned, has a presence in Seattle and Atlanta, which to me is very funny because it's two opposite sides of the country. But you're also expanding, it sounds like, into other markets. How do you decide when assessing an area or a market that, hey, this is going to be a good investment to go into this area? Or is there a rhyme or reason?
Yeah. No, there's a couple, I guess, metrics that you want to look before deciding to dive in.
Yeah.
And it really involves, is there any growth on that city?
Yeah.
Atlanta's growing fast. Seattle at the time was growing very fast, still growing fast. We're now expanding in Indiana and then also in Houston.
Yeah.
So another metric that you want to look is like, look at the competition on those markets. See if they offer online booking. Call companies there. If they don't answer the phone, which most people don't, incredible, that that there's a gap there that you can fill in real quick. And the number three, I'm sorry, is just the cost per acquisition, right? That is very important. How much is going to cost you to acquire a customer? So some markets are very saturated, and the cost per acquisition is $100 plus. So your market is going to be expensive, so your margin is going to be very thin. But if you go to these markets where it's emerging and then the competition is very weak, you can quickly fill in, run some paid ads, have a killer website, an online booking form, and you're off to the races.
Yeah, one thing that I really love that you just said right there is that when you're looking at your competitors, is like calling each one of them and seeing how they're answering the phones. Mm-hmm. That is such a small but large tip of where you can just see that customer interaction as to where, all right, how can I just intercept that initial point of, I can make this service experience better. Exactly. I love that. I think that is such a cool area and just a really cool tip to take away from that. That's a great feedback.
Mm-hmm.
And just kind of talking about that service experience and going into that a little bit here, as we know, staffing and retention are challenges across many service industries, not just yours alone. It's a recurring theme. Can you talk more about why you chose to pivot to your current model and what advantages you see with this approach?
Great question. So when you have employees, there's this industry. I mean, it might seem easy to start, right? Because it's cool, but it's very repetitive, right? So people tend not to like it after a few weeks of doing the same thing over and over and over. So they tend just to leave and just find a different job. And so for us, it's sort of 11 years now. It seems that we hit a ceiling on the 20 to 25 employee mark. We just can't pass that. And so there's a lot of training involved, a lot of tax, payroll tax, workers' compensation, buying supplies, buying equipment, versus the subcontractor model is more scalable. You're literally dealing with smaller companies, and so they treat this more like their own business. So you just become the middleman and say, hey, I'm gonna be in charge of customer acquisition. You deliver the job, you get paid a percentage. I'll keep the rest for my operations. And so one is more scalable. Two, I don't have to be dealing with payroll tax, workers' comp, supplies, equipment, and I can hire 10 subcontractors tomorrow versus trying to hire 10 employees, train them, go through the process, and then lose 8 of them after a few weeks. So it is definitely just more scalable.
Yeah, and I think that's definitely something, like you said, that scalability there is the key, is how can we make things more efficient so that way you can continue to grow your business without, as you mentioned, having some of those, not that they are setbacks, but just areas where you're going to be maybe hung up on other areas that aren't going to be as efficient or streamlined.
That's right.
And I want to also ask about, I know that there was a viral YouTube interview that you did, basically an interview that really took off and ultimately opened a couple doors for you in maybe some unexpected ways. Can you share how that moment really shaped the direction of your business and also your coaching business, because you were able to develop a program to be able to share with other business owners? And I'd love to hear a little bit more about that from you.
Yeah, that was really unexpected. I remember I got an email from this guy say, "Hey, we are a YouTube channel interviewing small business owners in the Northwest, and we already interview a landscaper, a shoe company, and just different industries, right? But we want to interview an Airbnb cleaning company." At the time, most of my business was residential cleaning.
Yeah.
But I remember on my website it said, the best Airbnb cleaning in Seattle. So for some reason they thought my niche was already Airbnb. And I said, sure, absolutely. I would love to share, how I operate my business. They show up, we record the interview in about 4 hours. They leave. And 4 weeks later, when they publish it, I remember the owner calling me. He's like, "Chris, please take a moment to answer the comments." He's like, "It's going bananas."
Yeah.
So, it's going to be a couple of comments. There were hundreds, literally. And I'm like, oh my God. Next thing you know, people calling my business. "Hey, man, I saw your video. I have a cleaning business in Dallas, in Austin, in LA. I've been struggling to scale it. I love how you, explain things. Can I pick your brain?" And I'm like, of course you can.
Yeah.
And so one thing led to another. I originally first started offering one-on-one Zoom calls. But then I realized there was a pattern. Same questions. How do I acquire my customers? How do I automate stuff? Right? How do I price correctly? And I'm like, man, I can just create a course around this and then sell it instead of me being stuck in the computer all the time.
Yeah.
So I launched the course and it's a success. I end up actually partnering with the YouTube channel to create a professional course and then relaunch it. We're still out there. But long story short, after these people, and it's about 4,000 people end up buying the course. These people will start saying, "Hey, Chris, I still need some guidance. Do you have one-on-one coaching?" I'm like, "I can create one, no problem." And so that really opened the door. It became a business on itself, really.
Yeah.
And so now I operate my cleaning, the two cleaning locations, but then I also do coaching where I teach other people from really all the spectrum, from people who wants to start a cleaning business from scratch, or people who already has several years in the business, but they cannot scale because either they don't have systems or they just don't know how to. And so that's essentially what I currently do.
Yeah. And I mean, you said it right there. Basically, you now have two businesses. You had your cleaning business that then led into this interview that now has made you, really positioned you as an industry leader and thought leader in what you're doing. Mm-hmm. So I wanted to ask, as this entire business had become its own, what do you think other business owners can learn from your experience of turning this expertise that you have into now an education source for other business owners? And I know we're speaking more in the cleaning industry, but just thinking broad, how do you feel like that can translate?
Oh, 100%. If you have any business, really, for that matter, and if you're already successful, you already have operations set in place. There's systems in it.
Yeah.
All you need to do is package it. Create models. Say this is most cleaning or most business owners when they're starting. Yeah. They want to know how, right? Because there's no school for that, right? But if let's say a landscaping or painting company, construction, whatever. Hey, this is how you register the business. This is how you price projects. This is how you hire people. This is how you acquire customers. This is the lifetime flow of a customer, from the beginning to end, how you deliver the service. Think about, if you already have systems, it's the same thing. Just package it in a way that you can sell it. Create a community around you, and I promise this is going to become an excellent source of income while maintaining your business currently. And so I will say, if you have a business, any business, go for it. You will be amazed how many people are willing to pay for your knowledge.
Yeah. And it just kind of a one-off question off of that. You have these two going on. Do you feel like it is difficult, for other business owners, they might be hearing that and thinking like, hey, I really want to take this leap to discuss my expertise and share it. Do you find it hard to balance both, or do you feel like because they're kind of in the same length of what you're doing that you're having these crossovers every day where it's not that big of an undertaking?
The latter, right? So because you're already doing on a day-to-day basis, you're dealing with operations. All in my case, I set up 2 days a week. Every Monday and Wednesday, that's when I do coaching, right? And then on the afternoons, I take calls from time to time. So it allows me to keep running my business and not get distracted while I keep helping other people, literally doing the same thing I'm already doing. So it's very doable. And if anything, it makes me enjoy more what I do, because when you hear other people like, "Dude, you changed my business, you changed my life," that is more. For me, I'm super grateful that I'm able to touch other people's life and then allow them to grow their business and change their business and their lives.
That's awesome. And I love that. I love that, like you said, like you're not only just working with people, because the industry that you're in, it's very it's intimate. You're going into people's homes, you're helping making their lives easier weekly. They might have you for cleaning services that are going to allow you to, maybe take a little bit of a load off of their plate for the week, and then being able to have also another area where you're really helping people in their businesses. Like you really get to touch both sides of that, where your career is really based on just helping others.
That's right.
So I think that's incredibly awesome and cool as to what you're doing. And to kind of quickly pivot here, I wanted to ask a little bit more about some of the business aspects. You mentioned that marketing has played a big role in your growth. And I'm curious, as we're talking with other business leaders, and how do you approach your marketing and balancing that spend across looking at platforms, like if you're running like a Facebook or Google or Instagram or any other campaign? Obviously there's different digital experiences now. There's obviously social media, there's obviously also traditional media. How do you approach that and really identify like, hey, this is what's working, and then deciding to double down on that?
That's a fantastic question, and that's something that every business owner needs to pay attention to. The way I do it, right, I have a budget already allocated for marketing. This budget, it's, in my case, I already tried most of the channels, so I know what works for me.
Sure.
But in essence, most channels is going to be Google for the most part. That's where you're going to find ready-to-buy customers, right? They literally went to Google to say, painter near me, house cleaning near me, whatever the case, all right? The buying intent is very high. So you definitely want to spend dollars there. For me, it's the number one channel for new customers. There's two platforms that Google offers. One is the pay-per-click version, right? When you're bidding for keywords. Then there's the Google Local Services, where you're literally just getting calls. That is a more simple platform, and I run both because some people, they don't really like to call. They want to go online, submit a form, and then get the service, right? So you want to be on both sides. Facebook, Instagram, that will be my number 3rd channel. Craigslist, amazingly, it's one of my, I guess it's a very old site, but there's traffic there. Up until today, it's one of the most visited sites on a day-to-day basis. So for my industry, still works, right? I post every day, once a day, and we get calls all the time. I've tried Nextdoor, that didn't work for me. I tried Yelp, it worked for some time. So I guess to answer your question is, set up a budget, right? And then set up this budget to try these marketing channels, whatever you want to try, and give it at least 3 months, right? I've seen this time and time again when they just, spend $500 on Google, they don't see results, and they're like, it's not working for me, right? It's very hard to really get results on the first month. You definitely need to optimize the campaign, let it run, see what's working, what's not, turn off what's producing, what's not. And then I want to say, give anything 3 months, right? And in 3 months, look, okay, I spent, $1,500 on Google, $1,500 on Facebook, and then $1,500 on Yelp. Just an example. Take a look at how many customers, or actually leads, that you want to lead, how many leads each platform, got you, but and then also the quality of the lead, right? Out of those leads, how many actually turn into customers? At that point, you can make an informed decision, not just a gut decision. You can say, you know what? Facebook is not really working for me. I'm getting a ton of leads, but they don't convert. So what's the point, right? Versus I'm paying more on Google, but hey, I'm converting half of them.
Yeah.
It's an easy decision at that point to say, okay, I'm gonna shift the budget that I was spending on Facebook. I'm gonna double down on what's working.
Yeah.
And then people say, keep another budget small, 500 to 1,000 if you can, right? For new platforms out there, right? You can try traditional media, door hangers, direct mail, local magazines. Try everything, right? And then give it again 3 months at least, so you can measure it and see if it's working or not. And then from there, you're gonna start noticing the patterns. You see, okay, this works for me, this doesn't work for me, and then you're gonna be able to scale faster if you just throw in $500 and praying to God that this is gonna work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, and one thing you said that I wish that other business owners would take into account and just really stick to is that 3-month wait period. Is really, if you're going to try something out, it needs to be invested in and ran for a solid 90 days before you pull the plug on it, because then you get to really see, okay, are the leads quality? Is there a way that we can shift? It also gives the team and whoever is, running those ads chances to optimize it. And be able to see the optimizations take into effect, maybe run some A/B testing on creative. So I love that you mentioned that. I think that's a great takeaway there. And I know that you have, as we've discussed, you have some other markets you're expanding into. You have Seattle and Atlanta. What lessons from that have you learned about tailoring different marketing strategies to different locations? Because on top of that, you're having this difference of Atlanta and Seattle that are two different places, as we mentioned, across the country, but also climate-wise, difference in the demographics of the area. How have you been able to apply those strategies that are very much tailored to those areas?
Absolutely, and that's a great question, and it makes me laugh looking back, because I remember, when we moved to Atlanta, that was in 2023, towards the end of 2023. I told my wife, watch, I'm just gonna copy and paste what I'm doing in Seattle, and we're just gonna kill it. It did not work like that. Different market, like you said, different demographic, different type of homes. I end up finding out, that what was working for me in Seattle is not working for me in Atlanta. One, customer expectations, totally different, right?
Yeah.
Customer interaction, totally different.
Yeah.
Home size, totally different.
Yeah.
And so I was shocked to find out that, after a few months, I'm like, why is it not working? Why are we not selling as good as Seattle? And I'm thinking, well, it's because we're new. They're just going to keep spending ads on it. No. I actually had to make some internal changes. I noticed that people in Seattle, right, are more tech savvy and are more tech oriented. Yeah. So they don't have a problem going online and just book them and then just pay you up front. Here, people are more old school. They want to still meet you in person, talk to you. Who's going to come into my place?
Yes.
And I was just not into it. I'm like, no, just go to the website and pay. We have guarantee, we have this, we have that. And what I end up finding out is that you have to adapt, right? Not every market is the same. And then you just need to pivot and see what customers want in your area or the area that you're operating. And then cater to those people, all right? You make a few changes, and then you're gonna find out that, okay, this is what's working here. I'm just gonna have to make these certain changes. So that was a funny lesson, right? I really thought that having the years of experience was just gonna be able to copy and paste. It doesn't work like that, right? You had to learn the customer, kind of learn the process again, and then optimize the operations.
Yeah, no, and I think that's I love that you were having some of those, like the tech savvy in Seattle, which makes sense, and then having that Atlanta where it's like they want to meet you in person. So being able to have systems and processes set up that can adapt to that is great, and I love that you are having this tailored approach. Now, I want to ask about kind of going back a little bit to the marketing side of things with the ad platforms. As we know, these areas are constantly changing. How do you keep up with algorithm shifts? And also, while still seeing and driving results through those shifts as well, is there anything that you feel like you need to quickly pivot on, or how do you approach that?
Well, actually, I hate when they do the algorithm updates because this has happened to me many, many times, right? When I'm running campaigns, they're working fine, and then the platform decides to make some internal update, and then all next thing you see, your cost per click goes through the roof, your cost per acquisition goes through the roof, and now you're like, what's going on, right? And this happens with Facebook, with Google, right? And so for me, I'll always keep an eye. I like to keep an eye on a weekly basis, and then
Yeah.
go to my dashboard and see, okay, on the last 7 days, what changes can I, see right from the get-go? Is the cost per click the same? Is it going down? Is it going up? If it's going up, why is it doing that, right? And that's why you hire professionals, marketing agencies, to really do this for you, right? I guess you as a business owner, your job is to run the business, not to be stuck trying to figure out all these nuances. So for me, right, having an expert on my side is being my solution, right? Because back in the day, I was trying to do everything, and you just can't. I mean, you get burned out, right? Because you're dealing with customers, with clients, with
Yeah.
with complaints, and then you're trying to run everything, and then the accounting, right? I'll say get a team of experts, have them run, your campaigns for you, and then have a constant communication with them, because I've seen this again where I hired this agency and they never said anything to me. They were just charging me money. Well, that's also new, because it's your job to be in contact with them, say, hey, what's going on? Hey, can you tell me what's happening? What can we do? Right. So it's a both way communication that you have to have open, not just give someone some money and then I don't even know what you're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. And you're kind of talking about it already, but like with the expanding into new cities and having, the tech that's happening along with the marketing, the digital, how do you see the role of technology and online visibility shaping the future of Bumblebee cleaning?
Oh, it's instrumental. And then it's just
Yeah.
not only business, really, it's for any business. If you don't adopt technology,
Yeah.
your business is going to struggle in the next years. And I'm telling you, right now with the AI, if you don't adapt AI for your operations, you're going to be left in the dust,
Yeah.
right? But not only that, right? There's tons of software coming out that can help you automate repetitive process, right? Maybe invoicing, maybe even answering phone calls after hours with a virtual agent.
Mhm.
Uh, Route optimizers, you name it. There's tons of softwares out there. If you're serious about keeping up with the competition, and most importantly, being alive with your business, you definitely need to adapt technology. So one, it will allow you to systematize everything. The process will be more smoother, and then you're gonna be able to step back and actually run the business, not be stuck in the business.
Yeah, no, and I think that that's so important because, like you said, there's a few things that you mentioned there, and I think really what it all comes back to also is when it's customer facing, and also for internal reasons is like convenience is key.
Yeah.
Being able to have a lot of conveniences for people, as we know, technology makes our lives more streamlined.
Yeah.
And like you said, AI can be very intimidating for some business owners, but finding ways to incorporate it, even if it's like a after hours assistant who's helping you book and helping make sure things are in your queue by the time you get into the office the next morning is huge.
That's right.
I mean, even seeing right now what's really trending is even things with like Facebook lead generation. People don't want to be led to a lot of landing pages anymore. They want to be able to do it on site and not feel like they're getting moved from a different platform to platform. So I love that how you're already thinking about this and incorporating it into your day to day. And then, thinking about other entrepreneurs that are listening here, what advice would you give them about scaling a service-based business while still maintaining quality and customer trust?
Before you scale, systematize. Because if you don't systematize, you're gonna hate yourself, right? Because the business, the more it grows, the more time it's gonna absorb from you if you don't have systems. That happened to us, right? It was my first business. It just kept growing and growing, and I just focused on doing everything myself. Eventually, I remember by year 4, I was so burned out. We were making money, but I hated it. Why? Because now I didn't have a 9-to-5 job. I have a 24-hour job, and I need to put fires here, put out fires there, wake up there in the morning, repeat all the process again, and I'm like, and then everything had to go through me, right? I became the bottleneck of the business.
Yeah.
And what's worse though is now you know that you're the problem, right? You're the bottleneck. You need to delegate. But now you have grown the business up to that point that now you feel fearful of letting go.
Yeah.
You believe that there's no one that can replace you, and that's such a a lie that you tell yourself, because this you can hire people, right? And then I got this from a coach I remember said, hey Chris, there is no one is going to do the same job as you because you're the owner, right? But if you hire someone that can do at least 50% of what you can do, you can teach them the other 50% along the way.
Yeah.
We're like, wow,
Yeah.
true, right? And so the first thing I did at the time was start hiring virtual assistants. And my wife was so against it. I remember she's like, how are you going to hire someone overseas to collect the credit cards? What if they steal them? What if this? What if that, right? There's a lot of unknowns. And I said, hey, listen, we got to do this because I'm tired of answering the phone all the time, 7 days a week. I need to focus on something else. So hire virtual assistant. I would say this is one of the most underrated things that a business owner can do. Any business owner, really. You can hire someone overseas with very high credentials, but a fraction of the cost that you will, pay someone here. In my case, it was just for answering the phone calls and then answering the emails, kind of doing the customer service. Once I did that, I realized I was not stuck in the computer anymore. Now I could go and systematize another part of the business. Now I can systematize the hiring part, right? Okay, let's create a training program. So when I onboard a new person, then the person can go to this video training, and then I can send them to the field. Okay, great. Now let me systematize the lifetime cycle of the customer, right? They book a job one time. Okay, how can I figure out to keep nurturing that person so they can buy from me again, right? And I started like being able to, I guess, systematize these little pockets in my business, and eventually delegate this to virtual assistants or someone else, right? And then you're able to finally step out. But if you don't systematize, I would say don't focus on growing, because you're gonna hate yourself. You're gonna be like, dude, you're all you scaling, it's a mess, right? So focus on systems. Systems will beat people all the time.
Yeah. No, and I think that you have touched on a lot of things here that a lot of business owners are dealing with, especially when they are the unintentional bottleneck of their business. They're afraid to let go. They're afraid to look and hire someone else. They think someone can't do it as well as them, but that all comes in time with training. Like you said, if you can at least get 50% there, you can make the other 50% happen. So I think that's a huge takeaway. And I hope that a lot of people that are listening hear that and can really take that away and apply it to their business.
That's right.
Now, last question here, looking ahead, what do you feel like is next for you, both with Bumblebee Cleaning and also with your own business coaching that you have? What do you feel like is the next step in the next phase?
Well, the next step is opening the other 2 locations, right? That's what I have in front of me. So I have 2 projects for the beginning of the year. And on the last quarter of 2025, what I'm going to be working is really tying everything up. So beginning of the year, we launch. So first, it's opening the location in Indianapolis. The other one is in Houston. But then at the same time, we're going to go with the subcontractor model. So we're going to expand on those 2 cities, convert the 2 cities, Seattle and Atlanta, to subcontractors, and then just scale as much as possible. At the same time, I noticed that a lot of these people that I coach, right, they, especially the business owners that are really making between 20K to 50K, that's where the stuff, what I previously mentioned, they're the bottleneck, right? They don't know how to get out, and then they just burn out. They want to close doors. So I want to come in and say, hey, listen, I know how to fix it. Install these processes in your system, and I can help you. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on cleaning business owners that are stuck between 20K to 50K per month. I'm going to come in, install the processes, change their business so they can keep growing. And so that's how I see myself in the next 2 to 3 years.
Awesome. Thank you. And I really appreciate you taking the time to answer these questions so thoroughly. I really am excited for what's happening with Bumblebee Cleaning Services. And then, of course, with your own personal business that you have going on here. So Chris, we really appreciate you joining us today. And if you have anything else to close out before we head out, please feel free to say so. But again, thank you all. And I'll turn it over to you real quick.
No, thank you, Lauren. I really enjoyed the talk. It was very great questions. And I hope your audience, get some golden nuggets from here. And I would say apply what you learn, right? It's not about learning, because that happened to us all the time. We hear great ideas, but we don't implement them.
Yeah.
So if you hear something really good, give it a shot, right? And that's when the magic happens.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Chris. Have a great rest of your day, and we really appreciate you talking with us today.
Thank you for the invite, Lauren. See you.
All right.